Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Lunch Break Live, real talk about obesity, food addiction, recovery, and what's really eating you. I am Carrie Dela Cruz, and I am here again. I am really looking forward to these chats with you guys. It's like the highlight of my day, and that's saying something, okay? So anyway, I'm really glad that you're here. Before I get into the meat of the subject of today's program, I'm going to kind of take a little moment for everyone to gather and come in, because in talking with my mom yesterday, she said, you know, I always miss the very beginning of your show. No matter what I do, I miss you starting, and I'm always, joining late. Well, not really, because, you don't know I'm live till I'm live, right? And that takes a little bit of time. And I happen to like to be very punctual, but, I know that you guys can only be here when you know I'm going to be here. So welcome in as you're gathering. Today's program promises to be, it's like one of my favorite things to talk about. I'll just tell you that. Today is all about perfectionism and anxiety and all kinds of other super peaceful things. Did you sense the sarcasm in that tone a little bit? Yeah. Anxiety, perfectionism. These are, talk about weighty subjects. These are a couple of things I believe that really eat us up. These are the things that we feed. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Do me a favor, just so that I can make sure you guys are hearing me. Shoot me some thumbs up, happy faces, hearts, something, so that I know that you're out there. Let's see. I do see Joni here. Hi, Joni. Am I allowed to say you're here if you didn't say hi to me? It's a little late. I think I just outed you. Oops. Sorry. I'll do better next time. So far, you're like the only person I see, and I know there have to be other people here. Okay. So nobody's sending me hearts yet. Or maybe you're frantically sending them to me, and I'm just not getting them yet. Okay. Hey, Facebook Live has a little lag. Maybe it should be called Lunch Lag Live. No, Lunch Break Lag. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not getting any feedback from you guys. Oh, geez. Now look, I have been known to do entire programs where you guys cannot hear me talking, and I'd really rather not do that with this show. I don't want to have to do this twice. That would just be tragic. Okay. Thumbs up. Relief. I was starting to feel a little bit of anxiety there because I want this show to be perfect. All right, on that note, thank you so much, Joni, for letting me know that you're here. Hi. And also Nancy, I'm happy you're here live. I don't see my mama yet. How weird is that? Probably because I didn't say I'm going to be live in 5. Oh, well, I think she'll figure it out maybe if she turned her notifications back on. So listen, all right, I don't want to waste time chit-chatting. I've got stuff to talk about. So today, here's what I want to do. I want to start by putting some words out there. All right, like I always do. And I want you guys to be thinking about what you think about when I say the word. All right, so what do you hear in your head when you hear me say the word perfect? When you hear the word perfect, what do you hear in your head? All right, now, since Facebook Live has a little lag, I'm not going to wait for your responses. I'm just going to throw out some suggestions, and then maybe you'll fill in the blanks and find that you hear the same things. Do you hear great, awesome, spectacular, terrific, on the money, just right, no complaints whatsoever, award-winning? So when you hear the word perfect, do you maybe hear those words? I will look and see what you guys said and try to remember that this is where you said it. All right. Now, so that's the word perfect. Now I'm going to change the word a little bit and say perfection. Okay? So we went from perfect to perfection. Does perfection sound different in your mind or not? Does it say couldn't be better? Perfection. Unrivaled, unequaled, inarguably good. Quality. All right, so maybe you hear those words, maybe you hear other words. I don't know. All right, you ready? Take a deep breath with me. Perfectionist. Perfectionist. Hi, Mom, you made it. Perfectionist. What do you hear? So we started with the word perfect. We moved to perfection, and now we're at the word perfectionist. This one's a little bit trickier. Don't you guys agree? Is it good? Is it bad? Kind of, as your initial reaction when you hear the word. If you're talking about someone else, maybe perfectionist is good. If you're talking about yourself, maybe it's less good. If someone else is describing you, maybe it feels good. If you're describing someone else, are you being positive or negative in your description, right? So that's something interesting to think about when we've changed the word to perfectionist. All right, here's the last version of it. Are you ready? Last variation on this theme, perfectionism. Perfectionism. All right, I think, when I hear perfectionism, I do not, in my head, hear good things. I don't hear that as a positive, as a descriptor that makes me feel good, actually. I feel a little panicked when I hear perfectionism. Because to me, when I hear perfectionism, I hear intolerant, unyielding, impossibly principled, impossible achievement, unreachable goal, unrealistic standard, cannot possibly achieve. Amazing. Think about that transition, what we've just gone through from the word perfect to the word perfectionism. Wow. Did you guys, anybody, is that describing anybody out there today? Anybody, does this resonate with anyone? Yeah, I see some hearts flying by. You're not alone. Let me just tell you that, all right? I like to say I'm in recovery for perfectionism, all right? So, now, before I address perfectionism as it pertains to recovery and why I would be talking about this today, I'm going to ask you to look at the other word that I brought up at the beginning, all right? Now, again, I'm going to throw out a word, and I want you guys to be thinking about how you feel about it, what words come to mind when you hear it. Is it largely positive, a little bit negative? What is it? Okay. Anxious. So when you hear the word anxious, what do you hear? Do you maybe hear excited, looking forward to, eager, happy, ready, can't wait? Maybe you hear those things. I'm anxious, right? Maybe it has a positive connotation for you. Maybe it has a negative connotation. I don't know. All right. Now I'm going to crank it up a notch. Anxiety. Still, based on the same word, right? We went from anxious to anxiety. Right? Panic, overwhelm, out of control, unfounded, not real, too real, incapacitated, paralyzed, fearful, terrified, unsafe, can't calm down. Wow. Is that amazing to you guys? I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm filling in your blanks and I don't want to do that ever, but let me tell you, when I wrote those words, anxious and anxiety, the difference was night and day, from positive to negative in, 0 seconds flat. Those are the words I heard when I talked about anxiety. All right. Do you think that perfectionism and anxiety can coexist with recovery? All right. That's a very, very loaded question. This is not judgmental. This is not me saying yay or nay, yes or no. This is me asking you to consider if what I have been talking about in terms of recovery, when I've been defining it, describing it, showing, how it plays out in my own life. Given what you know about recovery, do perfectionism and anxiety have a place in recovery? Something to think about. Do anxiety and perfectionism have anything in common, do you think? That's another thing to consider. If you're a perfectionist, are you creating anxiety for yourself? Does anxiety, in turn, what is the word I'm looking for? Kind of create, generate, feed, wait, which way did I go on that? Does perfectionism feed anxiety, and does anxiety feed perfectionism? somebody walked by my office and I got distracted. I'm like, squirrel, sorry. Very important, right? Do those two things correlate to one another? Do they feed upon one another, right? Are you anxious when things aren't perfect? If you're going for perfection and you can't get there, are you anxious? See what I'm saying? Do you have anxiety about things that aren't exactly right? All right, something to consider. Now, here's a question. Is there peace in either state? So either situation, whatever you're feeling, if you are having anxiety or you are absolutely marinating in, percolating in perfectionism, right? If you're in that place and you are just stuck, are you feeling peace? Are you feeling any peace at all? That's something. Now, this is the very important part that I want to say. I am not talking about anxiety disorder. I am not talking about PTSD here. Those are medical conditions, okay? Those are things that you see a specialist for, that you need often medication, or in the case of one of my good friends, a special dog that can help you through it. That there are triggers beyond your control, beyond your influence, that there doesn't seem to be rhyme or reason. And sometimes you feel hopeless and that, like a victim, okay, that you are completely accosted and there's no way to protect yourself. That is not what I am talking about, because again, how could I be talking about that? I'm not a doctor. I'm neither medical doctor nor psychologist. So there you go, not addressing that stuff. That is big, that is real, that is stuff that when you're dealing with it, that is, it's really, you hope that you can acquire tools to get through it. You hope that you can, but that's not the kind of stuff I'm talking about today, okay? And I think it's really important to make that disclaimer. All right, that distinction, super, super important. So I hope you guys hear me. All right, I am talking about the stuff we feed. I'm talking about the stuff we actually create. All right, I'm talking about things like we elevate and we amplify and we make more important things that maybe aren't that important, aren't worthy of that amplification, aren't worthy of that elevation, right? That we're doing that, we dramatize, right? We become drama queens. You've seen that, right? Overly dramatic. Oh, woe is me, right? That is the kind of stuff I'm talking about when I'm talking about anxiety, where we crank up the fire under the pot that might already be simmering, and now we're going to bring it to a full boil, baby. We're going to boil over on the stove, all right? Catastrophizing, awfulizing, terribilizing. That is the kind of stuff I'm talking about when I am talking about anxiety and perfectionism, all right? We are creating it, influencing it, not managing it, actually making it worse. And in doing so, what do we want to do? We want to feed it because we can't cope. How often have we found ourselves when we're really onto ourselves and we really spend that time to look squarely in our faces and say, all right, enough of the lies. Come on, what's really going on here? I did it to myself. I self-sabotaged. I created that drama that wasn't there, that didn't exist, so that I would have a reason to eat. You know it. In those moments of clarity, in those moments where you're not in a, cookie coma, and you're not in a food haze, all right? You know that you create this so that you have a reason to not be able to cope with anything other than cookies, all right? And that is the kind of stuff I'm addressing today. This takes brutal honesty. Oh my gosh, courage and honesty. And there is no room for your pride to get in the way on this one. All right? So that's what I'm asking you guys to do. What do? We set impossible goals that we cannot possibly meet. I want to weigh 100 pounds, and if I do not weigh 100 pounds, I will be a failure. So I will have to eat and regain all of my weight, right? We have impossible standards that no one can possibly meet, least of all ourselves, right? When we can't meet those standards, those expectations, those goals, we feed, we eat. Because we have a reason now, right? We're so disappointed. It didn't come out right. Doggone it. Wouldn't you, if you were in my situation? This is pretty bad stuff. I'd eat if I were me too. That's what we do, all right? We chum it. We churn the waters. We chum. What is the word I'm looking for? We chumming. No, that's the water. I'm trying to think of the word. Anyway, we create it. We just create the drama. We stir that pot, all right? That doesn't really exist. We foment this stuff so that we can get the sympathy and people will understand why we want to eat. And most of all, we will believe that we have a reason to eat, okay? And that's what I'm talking about today. So we create anxiety, panic, importance, right? This is super important. You have to pay attention right now. My dad used to call this, and I loved this, boy, talk about losing my train of thought. Mom, help me. What did he say? He would say it had to do with my time. You know, it was when Carrie wanted to do something. That was when it mattered most, right? And it was all because I wanted it to happen in a certain time, not because it needed to happen in a certain time. What is it, Mom? I'm looking it up here, right? It is, hello, George. Don't say hi to George. Tell me what I'm thinking. It's what my dad used to say. Anyway, it had to do with Carrie time. You know, if Carrie wants to do it, if Carrie thinks it's important, then by golly, it has to be done. And guess what? I carried that through into a lot of years of my marriage, which, by the way, we're getting ready to celebrate on Friday, 27 years. I carried a lot of that through, that importance. It was important to me that it be done right now. It was a priority to me, and it had to do, it was like this urgency, right? This false urgency that I did. I created this panic, this anxiety, and guess what? When it didn't get done, when someone didn't pay attention to me, I felt more panicked, and I also felt less important. So I concluded I must do it myself. If no one else will handle it for me, you know, with the proper dispatch, the proper level of priority and attention that I would give it, I'm just going to have to go ahead and do it, because I would do it how? Perfectly. Of course I would. I would do it perfectly. So if you don't do it the way I want it to be done, when I want it to be done, I will go ahead and do it because I know how to do it perfectly. Got it? Do you see what I did there? I created that. I created my own little world. Oh, how beautiful is that? And then it was really a house of cards. And then every time it collapsed, I ate. Because you see, we create this artificial importance, and we create this artificial standard that we can never possibly meet. And that is overwhelming and anxiety producing, right? What I want, what matters to me, that's what we do. It matters to me and it's what I want. Okay, what happens if we step back, as we are encouraged to do as we learn about recovery, and say, what if it's not all about me? What if I am not the center of the universe? What about if I didn't do this right now? What about if this didn't happen the way I wanted it to? What about if I didn't eat that because I want it? What would happen? Those are things we don't often consider when we're talking about anxiety and perfection. There's no what if, unless the what if leads to, oh my God, what if it gets worse? What if I can't do it? What if it's not perfect? No, no, no. That's not the what ifing I'm talking about. All right? So these are honest questions we have to ask ourselves. We have to say, what if I didn't get what I wanted? What if I didn't eat that because I want it right now, even though it looks good? What if it's not all about me? What I like to say is, will I die? Oh, darn it. I hate that question, because usually the answer is no. No, I won't die. See? All right. Here's what I want to encourage you guys to do as, let's see here. All right. As we talked about the severity of the problems, and I think you guys will probably pretty much agree that anxiety and perfectionism, not the medical sort of anxiety, not PTSD, but the kind that we create, the kind that we foment and generate, okay? Not conducive to recovery, because it is not conducive to peace, all right? And if our goal is peace and not giving ourselves more reasons to eat than there already are in this complicated world, then we need to face those elements as they appear in our lives and say, what am I going to do about it? Because you don't just wake up one day and decide you're not going to be anxious and you're not going to be a perfectionist. You just don't do that. That's just because you get very good at doing it, and it does become a default setting, right? So the goal is to almost be a different person who shows up and says, wait a minute. It's like, you know, the mall cop on the Segway. Wait a minute. What if we didn't do that now? As a matter of fact, we're not going to do that now. So we're going to have to come up with an alternative plan, all right? We have to find a phrase that works, a phrase that we will hear. You know, maybe you call it a safe phrase or a word. You know how people sometimes have safe phrases in arguments and they go, when you hear that word, that means you need to stop because I'm hearing something really bad and I don't feel safe. All right, if that's the thing and you have to find a safe phrase for yourself so that you'll actually go, time out, I need to hear myself. All right, let's talk about what that might look like. When we're talking about anxiety, all is well, all is well, all is well. Sometimes I have to say it like 100 times. All is well, and I breathe. All is well, but I don't like it. I'm not happy. Right, right. All is well, all is well. But it's not what I want. It's not the way I want it to be. Okay, but all is well. All is well. All really is well. This too shall pass. But it's going to be this way forever. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not going to be this way forever. It's going to work out. But it's not going to be okay. It's going to work out the way it's going to work out, and you're not going to die. You're going to be okay, Carrie. Calm down. Let's regain some perspective. I call it like gaining perspective, all right? And I start to ask myself questions once I trust myself, once I'm a little calmer, because you can't ask questions when you're not calm. So once I get into a calmer state, I say, all right, do I have influence over this? Do I? You know, if I do, am I afraid to use that influence? Is that what this is all about? Or do I just really, really not have any influence over this? Do I have to let this go? Or do I have to pursue this? All right. Sometimes it's anxiety producing, knowing that you have to do something you don't want to do, right? Does this really affect me? Which is another way of saying, is this really any of my business? Seriously? Does this affect me or not? Again, this honesty comes from calming down first. Calming down first by saying things like, all is well. Okay, 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 okay. You know what I mean? Okay. How would you calm down a kid? It's okay. It's going to be okay. No, it's not. It's not going to be. Yes, it is. I am here. I am here. I am here. You are not alone. You're not alone. Okay, okay. All right. I'm here. Let's work through this thing together. That's what you do. All right? Because inside we're all little kids. We're scared little kids. We got to show up and we got to be a parent. All right. What's required of me here? All right. And this also leads nicely into perfectionism. What level of urgency is really required? What level of attention? What level of anxiety? Do I need to be concerned about this? What level of concern is required here? What level of attention to detail? What level of performance is required here? Again, that's a very real question that can only be asked when you're calm. When you're calm and you're actually breathing, all right? The bottom line is, if you don't find a phrase that you'll hear, you won't listen to yourself because you never say anything you want to listen to, all right? For me, as a person who is working to be in recovery from perfectionism, I can't say, is it good enough? Because the answer to that is no, it's never good enough, you know? So I've had to say, all right, what's required of me here for this project? What's required? What needs to happen? What purpose is this going to serve? What level of energy do I really need to put into this? Okay, because I always put way more energy into something than I needed to, and that's a colossal waste of time that I don't have. So I show up and I'm rational. I go, what amount of time do I want to devote to this? What amount of time is required for this, and do I have that time to give to it? All right, so it's not about perfection. It's what will accomplish the job here. What's it going to take? And that is my phrase. What's it going to take to make this happen? All right, let's get it done. Because at the end of the day, for many of us perfectionists, our not good enough is way better than other people's perfect. All right, we have to acknowledge that. For a lot of us perfectionists, trust me, our not what we would call good enough is better than other people's best. So our job is to do the best job given what? The time constraints, the information available, the tools that we have at our disposal, the time that we have, to do the best job that we can within all of those constraints, all right? You're not allowed to make more time. You're not allowed to go back and do it for a 50th or 100th time. You're not allowed to do that. Not an option, right? So, logic. We apply logic, and that's what we do when we talk ourselves off the ledge. That's what I say I do. All right, Carrie. Step away from the ledge, step away from the ledge. It's really not that bad. It's really not that serious. You're not going to die over this. It doesn't have to be perfect. No one's going to notice that. And if they do, oh well, just let it go, move on. right? Stuff like that. I talk kindly to myself, but I have to regain perspective first. Life is going to throw a lot of crap at you without having to generate it yourself. A lot of crap. Today, it's health insurance renewal time around the farm, all right? And obviously premiums go up every single year and my boss doesn't want to pay them anymore. And my co-pays are going to triple now. And I have medications that I take every single month and my outlay is going to be triple the amount now, right? Panic because I go, but wait a minute, I need those medications to be here. And if I don't have those medications and I don't have that money to pay for it, what am I going to do? And okay, calm down. Will I die without the medications? I could. So I got to take them. All right. Will I die from triple the outlay? I'm going to have to find that money somewhere else. I have it. I can talk to my boss. I can do all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, I can't hold on so tightly that I say, if he doesn't agree with me and if he doesn't do what he should do, then it's all over and it's not going to be okay and I'm going to eat about it. Nope, that's just not reality. Reality is I'm going to have to find a way. I'm going to have to find a way, but I'm going to hope that he'll step up and do the right thing too. See? We have to give a little bit. Sometimes we're so rigid, we don't let go, we don't give. We have a stranglehold on things and say, if it doesn't work out exactly the way I want it to, then it's not ever going to be okay. And we have to consider alternatives and say, you know what? This may not turn out the way I want it to. This may not look the way I want it to look. I'm going to have to live with that, okay? Because either A, it's beyond my control or my influence, or B, it's just the way that it is. So this is the kind of kind talk that we want to do to ourselves when we're talking about choosing and living in recovery and not creating reasons and opportunities and justifications to eat and overfeed our anxiety and our perfectionism. We have got to find ways to rein that stuff in because in answer to my original question, I do not think anxiety and perfectionism can coexist comfortably with recovery. That is not to say that you cannot choose to live in recovery and have to deal with that. I'm not saying that. But in that moment, when you are allowing anxiety, not the medical kind, not PTSD, when you are allowing the anxiety of your own manufacturing, the perfectionism of your own manufacturing, when you are creating that, you are not choosing to live in the peace of recovery. Do you see what I'm saying here? They don't coincide because we don't choose for them to coincide. That is really the message here. So let's see here. My final thoughts. Remind yourself that all is well. Remind yourself this too shall pass. Ask yourself if you will die over this. Reclaim perspective. Recognize that you're going to feel those feelings. That even when you do everything to the best of your ability, it doesn't mean that it's not going to hurt, it's not going to suck, or that it's going to be easy. But you're not going to feed over it. And that really is the goal here, okay? You're going to live life on life's terms instead of avoiding it. Because guess what happens when you avoid feelings? They come back worse than ever. So that pain and that fear and that hatred and that sadness and all that stuff that you ate over, when it comes back and you come up out of your coma, it's worse than it ever was. How about if you feel it now so you don't have to feel it worse later? That's, you may quote me. All right. Finally, perfectionism is not the pathway to peace. It's just not. You know where perfectionism leads. It leads to anxiety and craziness. So that's it, guys. And because I've gone long, I am not going to respond to your comments this time, but I am very grateful that you guys were here. I hope that I was able to somehow cram something beneficial and interesting and relevant into these 25, almost 30 minutes of our too short time. I am so grateful you guys were here, and I hope that you can take some tools out of this talk and begin to use them in your own life so that you can begin to realize, feel, experience, create the peace of recovery instead of generating the anxiety that comes from perfectionism and drama. All right, guys, so I'm going to leave you on that note. Thanks again for being here. I encourage you to please share this with others so we can get the message out. And I remind you all to have courage, seek peace, embrace joy, and above all, Live a recovery free of perfectionism and generated anxiety. Remember, you can't stop feeding what's eating you if you don't know what's eating you. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye.